A little bit about who we are first. My name is Jordan Hauser. I am a brand director with Scott's Miracle-Gro. I've been with the company for the last 7, almost coming up on 8 years of my career. Specifically work on our lawns business. We have a lot of different businesses and brands in the lawn and garden space, but I've spent my time and still today work on our lawns business and here with Kyle.
Yeah, and I'm Kyle, VP Media Director at MediaHub. I'm working across Scott's Miracle-Gro. We're across all the brands, but as I tell Jordan, lawns is my favorite, so.
I think he says that to everybody, but I'm here on the stage with him, so I'll take it. I want to start by talking a little bit about Scott's, because I do think that our history and what we do for consumers and how we want homeowners to engage with our brand is important and really connects nicely to our spring campaign, how we're thinking about our advertising in this space. So I'm actually going to go all the way back for a minute and talk about where we started. The guy you're looking at here, his name was Orlando Scott. He's the guy that started Scott's. He served in the Civil War with the Union Army. From Marysville, Ohio, he went back there after the war, and like a lot of people at the time, he kind of said, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do to make a living and live my life after an experience like that? And in Ohio, we've got a lot of agriculture, a lot of farming, and so in his hometown of Marysville, he went around, talked to farmers, saw what they were experiencing. One thing he learned pretty quickly is they were really frustrated with the quality of seed they were receiving when they were trying to grow things, whether it be crop or grass, whatever it was they were trying to plant. Just as much of the intended crop, they'd have weeds come up alongside with it. And he immediately saw that as an opportunity, started Scott's selling seed to farmers as a way to give them the most pure form of product they could have for what they were looking for. Huge success with that, and then his son, Dwight, which is the next person here on the slide down in the bottom right, he said, this is great for farmers, but we can expand it even more. We can take it into the residential market. At the time, homes were just starting to be built in a way that they had their own space, and they cared about the beautification of the outside, and they pounced on it and said, let's extend this purity of space, this purity of market into the residential segment of the business. And so they did that. Opened a storefront in downtown Marysville, which, fun fact, is still there in Marysville, Ohio, and is the only Scott's retail store that has ever been in existence, and started to help homeowners rather than just farmers. As they did that, also saw that there was a knowledge gap. It's wonderful to give great product, but they had issues with homeowners not knowing what to do after they've planted the product or how to give nutrition to their green plants and space in the outdoors. And so they started the Lawn Care magazine, which you think of something like the Farmer's Almanac. This was the double-click deep dive into how to care for your lawn that they sent 4 of these a year that had very detailed information on what you should do for your lawn. And that expanded. From there, it was education. It became all about different residential products that could go in the market. Brick and mortar spaces continued to open up. You think of hardware stores that opened, the home improvement retailers of the world, and Scott's was there to kind of kick it all off. That led us to today. We like to call ourselves the leaders in lawn and garden. We are very proud of that. The brands you probably are most familiar with, Scott's in the lawn category, and then Miracle-Gro in the gardening space. But we have a handful of others in the lawn and garden space that we also support. You'll see we have a lot of pride in our brands, in the awareness that they have in our categories, and a lot of pride in how much we dominate market share in this business. We are number 1 in DIY lawn care. We are number 1 in gardening, and it's something we take a lot of pride in. Two key things I'm going to hit that really enable that. The first is best-in-class operations. We have the largest research and development program in the United States for DIY lawn care. Its headquarters in Marysville, but have satellite locations and field stations all across the United States that has produced hundreds of patents, both in the US and internationally, for products and formulas and technology that we've developed. The second piece, which then starts to get into what we're talking about today, is because we're such a dominant player in the lawns category, we don't have a lot of ability to go and steal share from competitors. And we don't have the ability to rely on a bunch of other national branded players to invest a lot of dollars and drive people into the category. And so we have the number 1 share voice and spend a lot of our efforts not just seeing how can we move share from others to us, but really got to get people who otherwise wouldn't engage in the category at all to engage in lawn care. The way we do that, and the branding that we have on top of this, is The mission of spreading the joy of green space. And I love to show this next clip because we start a lot of meetings at Scott's with this image here because it's actually team-submitted photos from our lawns team of them enjoying the space with their families. But the mission we have and what we want people to connect with our brand is we exist to help people enjoy the green space right outside their door because we believe that the best room in the house isn't even in the house. And so everything we do is about laddering back to that. And the way that we do it is with a lot of products across a lot of different types of projects a consumer might have for their home lawn. It may be something that is more reactive, i.e. I see a problem in my lawn, I need to put down product X, Y, or Z to solve it. Or it may be more proactive, where they are investing on a regular basis to eliminate threats that might harm their lawn if they don't keep it as healthy or as strong as it could be. Then there are projects within that, as you see across there, and then just a snapshot of some of the products in our portfolio. It's a lot of stuff. It's not very simple. It's not very easy for the consumer. And so, I jokingly put, it's easy, right? But it's really not. You all could take the slide and try to go home and take care of your lawns thinking you might have the best lawn in your neighborhood by spring. It's probably not going to happen. Some of the things that make lawns so difficult. First, there's climate. And this is a big part across the U.S. You can see different areas that are hit with different weather conditions, different timing of seasonality, even things like the soil type, how much moisture there is in the air, what the weather pattern is in that specific area. That has a major impact on what a consumer needs to do on their lawn to be successful and what problems they're going to face throughout their time. Second is biology. These are 6 different types of grass. We at Scott's sell over 15 different species of grass seed. And then below that, there are varieties within those species that are even more detailed. So it gets very complex very quickly. And what matters to the homeowner is some of these types of grass have huge benefits that others do not. Some are great at tolerating traffic. So maybe you have kids you play with or pets that you want to be able to run around and it be able to heal itself. Or it might be that you live in a really dry climate and you want to make sure that it can tolerate that, or you're in the north and it's a cold climate. So grass types are very important for a consumer having the success for the way they want to use their lawn and also where they live. And then you've got formulations. I put the dandelion here because if you were to go back to Ohio with me and put down the type of product I do there to take care of dandelions in my lawn, go into Florida, go in places in southern Texas and put that product down on a St. Augustine grass lawn, you would torch the entire thing and you'd kill your entire lawn. So it is very much a one size does not fit all when it comes to lawn care. The last thing I want to hit on when it comes to the reasons that lawns aren't very simple and it can be hard for consumers, I'm just going to show you 2 pictures here because it's really easy to demonstrate. I took this photo just walking through the lobby at Scott's one day earlier this year, February 16th. Kind of late for us to be getting a lot of snow in Ohio, but nothing truly remarkable. Fairly normal day. No one's thinking about lawn care on this day in Ohio. They're not thinking about fertilizer or grass seed or when their next application needs to happen. They're more likely going out and shoveling snow when they get home from work that evening. So to try to connect with consumers in our category at that time is not going to be very effective. But if I call up the guy at our field station in Florida, that's what's going on. Lawns have started to come out of dormancy. They're greening up for the year. You can see areas that problems might be starting to happen. The weather's starting to turn. People are ready to purchase. They're ready to engage in lawn care for the year. And it's a time that it is prime for us to be able to connect with them. So what that means, like I said, it is very much not one size fits all in lawn care. It is about the right product at the right time in the right place. And we have to be really mindful of that. Because we have a core consumer, and I could go into a lot of depth on the consumer because I'm a brand guy and I would love to, but I'm going to keep it relatively brief, which is to say we have a core consumer who is very highly engaged in their lawn care. They care about it. They want to do it. They see it as a reflection of themselves. They're willing to put in the time in order to get the results that they want, and it's both functional and cosmetic. They like that it looks nice, but they also like that it's a space that they can go out and enjoy in their home. Problem is they don't have a lot of time. And they have really high expectations. So they're busy, especially the younger set of our core consumers that have demanding careers, they're parents, so they have kids they have to take care of, they have social lives. So although they care about their lawn and they want to invest in it, they don't have that much time to do it, which then feeds into the high level of expectations they have. They don't want to have to apply multiple times if they can get it out of one application. They don't want to have to continue to come back and fix a problem that they thought they had before already solved. So with these people, it is very critical to get them success the very first time. And based on all the factors that go into the agronomics of lawn care, it gets to be a pretty tight window. So a couple things here. I talked about the consumer and talked about the category. I'm going to give a couple more pointed data points that we used to help inform some of the campaigns that we ran this spring. First one is 4 out of 5 consumers in lawn care are only going to do 1 application per year. Ideal is somewhere between 3 and 4, depending on what product they use and where they live. So that is most often going to happen in the spring season. When the weather starts to break, everyone sees it as a signal, get back out on your lawn, enjoy your outdoor space. So that's the time to capture the majority of them. What we know from prior years and have studied is that if you can get a person to purchase before March 15th, they will spend twice as much that full season as if they purchase after March 15th. So that first moment of engagement is huge. And the sooner you can get it within the window of time that it's ideal for them to do so, it pays dividends in the long run. That connects a lot to the category. And what we see with the challenges there, they are condensed windows of time to get the results that consumers expect and very regional windows of time to get the results that they expect. That happens more so as you look at the types of products and the protocols for applying them. You don't even apply them the same way. So the messaging has to be so tailored to consumers in this short window to achieve that early application to drive them throughout the year. So that becomes then our insight. If we can activate consumers with seasonally and regionally relevant solutions, we can not only drive more successful results for them in their first application, but also increase their basket size for the full year. So then with our objective then out of that in the early season for us at Scotts, driving frequency with our key audiences during the first half of the year. So that was our focus for the campaign. That's some of the business background that connected into the way we used some of these tactics and activated in the spring that I'll let Kyle walk us through.
Great, thank you. So we have a campaign live with multiple different channels. We are in live market with TV, connected TV, online video, but we really wanted to find a way to drive awareness at a hyper-local level as spring was starting in the markets so that the consumer would have a really good experience putting down the product. And digital out-of-home allowed us to do that. As we started up the campaign, we found that we were sitting on a lot of data. So weather being the first one. Scotts actually employs their own weatherman. So in addition to the air temperature and the precipitation in each market, we also looked at soil temperature, the historical climate, estimated precipitation, soil moisture. We got that on a weekly basis down to the market level. And then the weatherman actually also projected which products would benefit the most from the weather in each climate. So we're sitting on really good data there. We're trying to figure out how to use it. We're also sitting on in-season results. So we're able to see the sales so far by product category, the product demand that we expected against those sales to see which products are behind, which categories are behind by market, which ones are primed to rebound in the future, and which ones might need some help. We also have an internal model that, in addition to sales and weather, brings in things like competitive spend, promotions to project what sales look like and what media can reasonably do to affect that. And then finally, we also have anecdotal reports from the field sales team that Jordan talks to on a frequent basis during the spring.
Very frequently.
Yes, very frequent basis during the spring. So understanding how things are going on the ground in each market is really crucial as well to understanding what the market is experiencing and what needs to be pushed there. Which leads to location. So, when we set this campaign, we knew that having a 10-mile radius around Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace was kind of table stakes. But we also were able to see where lawn and garden audiences were shopping before they went on their yearly trip to Home Depot, Lowe's, and Ace to pick up their product to reach them in that moment as well. And then, as we mentioned earlier, in-season sales and historical by DMA to understand which ones were ahead and behind. So with all of that data, we were able to work to set up deals in each market for digital out-of-home that were ready to go. And what we wanted to do was really, as the season turned to spring in each market, we wanted to be ready to hit that market with media saying, okay, spring is finally here. Now is the time to put your fertilizer or grass seed down and go run a quick burst flight. Because there's a small window there that really you want to put down fertilizer and grass seed during the spring before it gets too hot and still have your grass grow by that time, but also be ahead of the last frost that may come in and cause a poor experience for the consumer. So as each market, we had 13 must-win markets that we identified through the channels we talked about earlier. And as each one kind of came to fruition, we launched a 2-week flight in each of the markets. As you can imagine, the flight in Seattle might be a little bit different than the flight in Atlanta, but we had it ready to go. And the cool thing we also did was we worked with Jordan's team and the creative team to have different products in the creative. So, maybe Seattle was behind in grass seed, so we ran a grass seed market or a grass seed message there in that market. But Atlanta was behind in fertilizer. So we were able to dynamically pick which message we ran based on the results so far in the season and have that ready to go. So we ran our 2-week flights, the burst in each market. We alerted people it was the start of spring, alerted our core consumer that now is a time to put fertilizer down and grass seed down, but did it drive results? So for brand lift, we ran this against kind of the standard brand lift questions, ad awareness, consideration, purchase intent, but we also had brand attributes that we ran against this campaign. So one thing we saw was that in the brand attributes section that the product is a fit for my environment and current conditions. That was pretty much what we were trying to do, was put the right product for the right conditions at the right time for that consumer. And we saw that there was a 9% lift against the exposed or the control group with our exposed group to this campaign to see that that metric actually moved. We also measured foot traffic, and we saw that the campaign was 9% more efficient compared to our national campaign with all the other channels at reaching people before they went into the Home Depot, Lowe's, or Ace for their yearly stock up of their product versus the campaign average. And finally, and arguably the most importantly, we saw ROI from this. We have a set ROI goal for net new channels, which Digital Out of Home was for Scotts this year, and we beat that ROI goal by 72%, which is outstanding. So something we were really excited about, really excited to see the numbers come in. We had a good feeling about it based on the brand lift and foot traffic results, but seeing the ROI results come in was really exciting. So what are we going to do in the future? But based on the results we saw, we're going to do this again. We're going to tweak it a little bit. We're going to bring back the same structure since it worked so well, gave us that flexibility, allowed to use both the internal data and the weather data that we were pulling in and seeing. But we'll hone in some of the Digital Out of Home formats used. We cast a pretty wide net for this initial campaign, but I think we'll hone that in a little bit next year and tailor it a little bit for each market as well. We'll also revisit that market list, make sure it makes sense for us next year. And then, as Jordan mentioned, there are a lot of products in the Scotts portfolio. So we're thinking about adding in more products so we can get even more tailored to each market and the exact product that they need. This year we focus on more of the hero products. We can start getting into some of the secondary products as it's relevant for each market. We're going to broaden. So one thing that we do with Scotts during the season is we run what's called regional acceleration programs. And essentially, those are 1-week pushes with a certain product across connected TV, online video, and display designed to hit each market kind of right on the dot as the product becomes relevant. We're going to add Digital Out of Home to that mix as well. So that'll be added to our regional acceleration. And then finally, we'll look to other seasons. Fall, I think, is one of our kind of biggest bogeys on Scotts. There's a huge opportunity there, to put fertilizer and grass seed down in the fall. The temperature there is arguably more as favorable than spring in a lot of markets. But people don't think of fall to put grass seed and fertilizer down like they do the spring. So there's a big education opportunity there. So we'll look to use Digital Out of Home for a fall feeding education. And then look to other triggers as well. Grubs, lawn disease are things that affect people's lawns, and we can kind of see that and get those reports from the field sales team and see it in the data through the internal reports. So capitalizing on that as those opportunities come up in certain markets. And that's the presentation. Yeah.
We have time for questions, and Albert's going to be your main guy for this. So if you have questions, raise your hand.
Oh, great. So,
And when you do, actually, when you ask a question over the course of the next couple of days, please let us know who you are and where you're from. Hello again, Rosa.
Hello again. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Look at that. Look at that. Does everybody get a little kiss like that? Okay.
Is that
Hi,
what you
everyone.
Get when you ask a question?
That was cute. I'm Rosa Alonso. I'm with the AARP Media Network, and I have a question for you about what you do with the data that you do collect. the first-party data. You're collecting a lot, location, data, et cetera, et cetera. Do you use that data to retarget to other venues? For example, you mentioned CTV. I'm just curious if that's something that you're doing. And if so, is it CTV? Is it other digital media that you may be using?
Yep, so we do use that for our end on the media activation standpoint. Primarily display is what we retarget with, mobile mostly. But I think that is an opportunity for us in the future to add other channels too and really connect. We do see that out of home, especially in the brand study, when connecting it with video, display, most other channels, it's just incremental brand lift versus it doing it on its own. So we're exploring ways to actively do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an area that we've talked about a lot strategically for the business because what we want is to get more consumers to make it part of their routine. And so if they've purchased once and responded well or been hit with that advertising moment, fall as an untapped season, summer is an untapped season, that second moment of engagement, I think it is a great question because there's a ton of opportunity there.
One back there.
Ian Dallimore, Lamar Advertising. My grass is Zoysia, so I'm a big lawn guy. Live in the South, so I have a unique format, right? How are you guys targeting the subscription-based model? So you're seeing more and more like D2C. I got sucked into the Sundays program, but yet I'm a huge Scott's lawn care guy when I go to Home Depot and Lowe's, so there's this kind of confusing moment. But how do you see in the future of utilizing digital out of home to target those very subscription-based folks?
Yeah, I'll give an answer first from the business side, and then I'll let Kyle talk more about the activation. You are spot on. Subscription's a huge opportunity across the category. And totally, you're seeing that from some other players, like the one you mentioned, whose name I won't repeat. They're out there now. I'm messing with you. They're out there. I'm sure most people have been served up now because you see a lot of those. Consumers are looking for convenience, and that is the main thing when it comes to lawn care. Is people don't want it to be difficult, and we do have a subscription model. Today, we call it the Scott's program. It arrives to your door when you need it, when it's time to put it down, and it's very similar to the way this campaign was set up to hit the regional and the climate-based side. So I think baseline, I think it's a very good question because there's a lot of opportunity in the convenience side of the market to establish those routines. In terms of activating for it, I'll let Kyle
Yeah,
talk.
I mean, Jordan and I had this conversation last night, chatting about just the general business. I think there's a huge opportunity with subscription and to message tests and how to do that. Is it the value? Is it, you get a little bit of a discount going through the subscription model? Is it convenience? I mean, that the product showing up on your doorstep exactly when you need to put it down takes the guesswork out of it is huge. So I think there's opportunity to message test through digital out of home in the different markets so that we can figure out what message resonates the best for that subscription service.
Is there one more?
One here. I got you.
Hi, how you doing? Jeff Aldridge, PJX Media. I'm a lawn guy too, probably not as successful as Ian over there. But just curious, from the buying standpoint, did you buy traditionally or programmatically, and did you incorporate day parting and weather triggering as a part of the campaign?
So we did buy programmatically, and we didn't include weather triggering in the sense of like we only triggered if there was rain in the forecast. What we found that because you get a false spring that comes in, it may trigger before the time is ready, and you get frost that comes in and kills the grass seed, and that creates a poor opportunity for the consumer. So we more so relied on our weather data internally as when to launch, and then kind of ran that burst campaign. As far as day parting goes, we did have some day parting on, although it wasn't necessarily limited to when Home Depot and Lowe's and Ace were open. What we found is that it generally takes 3 to 5 days from message exposure before retail visit, before the product is purchased. So if it was more of an immediate, like pull off the highway and grab a grass seed, I think day parting would be more relevant. But given that there's that length of time before you be able to purchase, we didn't. I think that's important.
I think we have one more question from. Oh, you wanna go? Hang on, one over here, real quick. One more here, and then.
All right, thank you. Adrian Witter, Group M. Question for both of you. So, Jordan, on the activating the first-party data, at what point did the business start to actually tap into that to activate it in media versus using it for in-house intelligence? And then, similarly, Kyle, outside of Scott's, is this something you're doing at scale across other clients? And if so, how are you initiating that convo? If not, what's preventing it happening?
Yeah, I'll answer first. It's been a journey over time, honestly. We've been collecting this data and expanding what type of data we collect. I would say especially the last 5 years, we've gotten a lot more focused. There are some things that have been around as long as Scott's has been around, which is we have a very dedicated, robust field sales team that we collect data from them on a weekly basis. Some of the more nuanced data science stuff, like the new team that we have that pulls in weather data, both acute and cumulative, that's been a little more in the last 2 years or so. The way that we've activated in season based on that data has been staying really close on a near daily basis on the things we're hearing, collecting that information. We kind of dipped our toe in the water last year, and then this year really started to use it to make some decisions on when to activate.
Yeah, and as far as other clients go, we don't necessarily do this exact model for other clients. That being said, we make it make sense for them. So in the retail space, for example, when there's promos, we may run bursts for the promotional calendar in each market. And then that may change based on what products are most relevant in each market. So it might be a site-wide promo. Digging back my days and worked on LL Bean, might be a site-wide promo. Some markets might be the boots is more relevant, so we'll show a boots message. Other markets may be the outerwear and the jackets are more relevant, so we'll show that. So we still have the creative break. We're still doing the bursts during the campaigns, but setting up this exact model where we're kind of getting everything ready just to hit go whenever the spring turns, that's a little bit specific to Scott's.
All right. One more? Okay, yeah. Oh, man. We could just make this the whole conference can just be this session. Go ahead.
Daniel with Broadsign. Just quickly, as you had mentioned, and you had the slide up with Vistar and everything, are you buying, you mentioned CTV, you mentioned search, you mentioned all of that. Is your strategy combining them all together and purchasing them through a single omni-channel source? Are you using multiple DSPs? Are you using an out-of-home DSP specific to out-of-home? Or kind of how are you tying everything back? And then you had mentioned on your measurement piece, are you tying all those together? Are you taking your CTV and tying it in with digital out of home and seeing how they actually attribute to each other, and how out of home, when it's running and you're not running CTV, how out of home is actually affecting and pushing your products there?
No, great question. So tackling the first part, we do run as much as possible through the same DSP. There are some campaigns we will run separately. We're not running everything through the DSP or one omni-channel source. We do put everything through the same omni-channel source for planning, so it's all going through the lens of the audience, and we're kind of making selections in the media mix that way. But for actual activation, no, we run as much as possible through the same DSP. Some things have to be split up. As far as measurement, though, yes, that is all being measured holistically. So those numbers I showed are in comparison to TV, online video, et cetera. Same with foot traffic, same with the MMX model. It's all taking into consideration. And the MMX model for Scott's, I will say, they're taking in competitive data, they're taking in pricing, they're taking in promo, they're taking in weather, they're taking in a lot of different factors beyond just media, and we're competing with media against all of that, essentially. So that 72% increase is taking all that into consideration as well, and we're still seeing that.
All right, so gentlemen, that was an outstanding presentation. You could tell by the Q&A, so thank you so much. A couple of things I want to underscore because I don't want to be lost in the room. I think one of the most brilliant things you said is the best room in the house is not even in the house. That connotation makes out-of-home very easy. And I implore people, hijack a marketer's language and use it to sell your stuff. It works. The other media terms don't work. I think the other thing is the idea you said, first moment of truth. You get them before March, they spend more money. And I think people have to understand certain media types are better for moments of truth than others. And nothing is probably better than what's in the physical world. This is, again, like I said, this is not difficult. That was great. I think the other thing I loved about all the data you shared, it's all observation data. It's human data. You can look at it and see it. When we talk about participation rate, we're not talking about Oracle data, Epsilon, all this other data stuff we throw around as crap. Sometimes the best data is a marketer's or a brand's basic observation of their consumer in their marketplace. So again, great case study. I just want the people in the room to use it because in my selling the channel, that is what I've done. I've not used the other stuff. It's useless. Using their language is what gets you a check cut. I'm just saying. Okay? So thank you, gentlemen. Round of applause for them. Outstanding.